Become a member and support the channel. Old World Tactics, Battle Reports, the 2 Plus Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the 2 Plus Podcast. I am joined again by Alex. My name is Paddy. Today we are going to give a little wrap-up of the Oldhammer tournament, which we went to the 5th installment, I think. My 4th, Alex's 5th. Western Sydney guys that run an amazing tournament out there. This one had 40 players and was a great day. Awesome Warhammer, awesome hobby standard, and a really well-run event. We've got some photos, talk about our results, and then have a bit of a holistic chat about what tournaments mean to us and why we do them and what we're thinking about them in the future. Alex, thanks for joining us. As always, quick 2-second take. How was Oldhammer for you?
Well, thanks, Paddy, for having me yet again. It's just a great show, really. What's the word? I have a great appreciation, but I think the Oldhammer group or Western Sydney Wargamers should be very proud of what they built because at 40 people, it was obvious that the scale had now tipped beyond probably what I prefer, like a smaller event. But how can you, like, that's just a selfish thing to say, really. Like, the demand is so high, and the way that it was bracketed meant I spent my time sort of playing people who I sort of already knew, but I could see there were like 20, it felt like 20 new people or something. So if when we started this and when I did my audit, maybe I should do a video about how much money I spent on Warhammer in a year. But it was August, the first one, and being able to go to that and sort of discover, oh, this is all this sort of like the game and people who were super enthusiastic about it. You could see new people experiencing that for the first time, and that must be very gratifying for the guys that run it. But also, yeah, like for the 5th time in, I guess it's been a bit of a saga, hasn't it, Paddy? It takes up a lot of time, the prep and all of that. And I think, yeah, we're in a reflective mood about the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's not at all to say that we haven't had an amazing time, because we absolutely did, including on the weekend and the previous times we've gone. It's been, honestly, our focus, I think it's fair to say, is...
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it.
Competitive play, and in particular at this tournament. It's been like the drive for us to get better at the game, get good results, have good, play on the tabletop. But we'll get stuck into it in a second and show a few photos of what some games are like, run through briefly our games. But firstly, as always, we want to thank our 2 Plus supporters, Ghost, Gomo, Catro, Pandem Wargaming, Sick, and Silver Dave. These are the guys that keep helping us pump out this content. It really goes a long way, so thank you guys. And if you want to consider supporting the 2 Plus podcast, please check out the link in the description. We are going to be doing this anyway, but to make it better for you and for everyone else, it goes a long way to keep us motivated. So thank you guys. But we'll get stuck in because we've got some cool photos to share, which goes a long way in explaining how good this tournament is. The standard of terrain, the standard of hobby that people put in, the comp, the thought that goes into the objective-based comp that we experienced this time around. There's a lot of care that goes into this tournament. It's not just in your back alley game store on, green felt with some, poorly made terrain. You can see there in that's Alistair's Witch Elf block, which looks incredible, which you ran up against. With the Cauldron, Josh's Dwarves, like that is 2 very, very good-looking armies, and the terrain matches it. So you would agree, no doubt.
And there was a lot of talk, wasn't there, about maintaining that standard. And I'm really grateful, as, we are huge about that on the channel, but having run my own tournaments and, us in the background, putting together terrain and the boards is the hardest bit. And it really is up to the players who come to stick to that. Overwhelmingly they do, but there's nothing worse than playing against unpainted armies or people who just don't care, and they're coming to, I know Paddy, you'll like this word, but abstract away the game. Like it really is a tactile, concrete experience, and they just do it like no one else. And I think it's hard because we don't travel and we probably won't, but it's hard to see, like in my experience in gaming and from what I'm hearing from other people who go to other tournaments, that this isn't the premier series now, given that they can sustain it for over 5 events and don't look like slowing down. That in Australia, like you're getting a tournament every 2 months that is pretty much the equivalent of the modern day GT in my mind.
Yeah, we both are in agreement that this is the standard now in Sydney. We spoke about it a little bit with the old world fanatics. The the old guard, for lack of a better term, the hangover tournaments that were around in 8th edition, 7th edition, which are still, considered the grand slams of the tournament scene. This, I can't see how they are better than this. That I haven't been to these ones.
And that's not for want of like some TO who's organizing it and, pulling it all together. Like we've shown photos in the past, and there are hordes or like vaults of club terrain and stuff flying around. But just the whole show, I know a lot goes into it in the background, but then the venue and the way that sort of disputes, which are very rare, are managed, I think is done quite well.
This is on screen at the moment an example of the scenario-based comp I was talking about, which was in the tournament pack. If you've watched the channel, you've probably heard about it, but this was a capture the tower objective with 2 towers in the middle, which are worth a lot of victory points, and killing stuff across the whole tournament was in reduced. It gave you reduced points, essentially. There was bigger brackets to that you had to kill more stuff to gain more points. And that was an intentional thing done by John and Michael and the Western Sydney Wargaming guys to try and create list diversity, which I think it succeeded in. The smart players lent into, the 1% angles of it. We saw successful Wood Elf players with a lot of fast cav in the later objectives with standards that were good at capturing things. But this one forced you to bring some infantry because that was the only way you could capture it. And if you didn't bring infantry, you couldn't capture it, which meant you were on the back foot from the get-go. But like even the towers there, they look great. The hills look great. The mats look great. People have painted their armies well. It goes a long, long way. This, though, is the showdown of the ages with 2 friends of the pod, Silver Dave, David Spears. Is it Spears? Why do I want to call him David Spears? Yeah. And Alex, Chaos Alex, one of the first friends of the pod. His great unclean one against is it a damsel or a prophetess? If it was a damsel, that would be wild. With
heroes or whatever the Britannian one is.
Yeah, monster slaying. I think he cast it. He successfully cast it, then got dispelled though, and then just got plague flailed out of the air. But again, 2 great looking armies and a great moment that these 2 guys built towards because of the spirit of the tournament. There was a lot of drama, not a lot. Maybe we drummed it up a bit much, but there was drama in the lead up with like people net listing. This is the opposite of it, and this is probably the more common thing that is on the table at this tournament. Great unclean ones. Maybe the first time. No, there was one at maybe the Clash of the Reich. I think someone took one, a Nurgle army. But Alex did really well. 3-0'd that one. Australia's best Chaos Demons player.
Well, undefeated.
Undefeated,
well.
6-0.
On a tear.
And
I think Dave still backed it up into the top 10, didn't he? Like he
went.
I think
smashed.
He'll let us know.
Yeah. But another example here, some great armies. Just the hobby standard. I think I did see some grey models, which is like that's people are
embarrassing, guys. Embarrassing. I'll just say it. Like we're a year in. Like for God's sake, I'm not going to swear because then we have to say this is not made for kids and or whatever we have to do in the background. Or it'll take 24 hours longer to get online. But just paint him. I'll paint him. You got to pay me, but I'll paint him.
A lot of people aren't going to be paying Alex though, because Alex are a great painter, but it looks like a lot of people enjoy painting
Oh, I
in the
think that
scene.
it's incredible. Like you get people who win best painted, and you go around and it's competitive. People have very like their basing and things like that. It's not just like cohesive, which a lot of my armies are. There's a lot of really like people have put a lot of effort in. And I think who was it that won?
The Wood Elf guy, I forgot his name.
Jason? I don't know.
Stanley?
Sorry.
Nah,
Yeah,
maybe
who
it's the other
like
one. I can't remember.
incredible army. Like
Yeah,
really. Like so if you win best painted now, when there's 40 of us at that event, you've really got a
yeah.
A plus level standard.
But let's go into some of your games because we both played 3 games. We both went 2-1. Your first game was against Old World Fanatics Andrew Stience running his Vampire Counts list, and you were your Beastmen.
Yeah. Had a lot of time to prepare for this and ended the way we thought it would, killing his Strigoi Ghoul King, but not the way we thought it would through Viletide. My tank, Shaggoth tanked him, saved, made all these saves, and then struck back, and I'd been able to do some chip damage to win. I've put tactics video out already for this, and the battle report will be up soon. I'm pretty proud of this left flank stuff I put off, but Andrew's great. Like, he definitely plays in the right spirit. Like we finished earlier as well, which I'm probably the common denominator there. I might be finding out, but that's also very helpful. And I think playing an interesting list is what it's all about. Like having something to play for. It's not just running through the motions with what you already expect. So yeah, it was a fun game. Even though beforehand I thought, oh, this is all or nothing. If he gets through and Wailing Dirge gets to me, I'm cooked, or he can keep charging. But it ended the way I hoped and dropped his Ghoul King, and then the rest sort of just crumbled over time.
Was that a 20-0 to a
Yeah,
17-3
so
or 20 to
I
3,
was able to
whatever it can
take the
be?
towers, had the Herdstone, but ultimately, because the Ghoul King died at the end of turn two, at the bottom of turn two, like we knew that his troops were just going to fall apart, or I would catch them all, so we just called it.
Game 2 for you was against another friend of the pod, Alistair, and his
No, that
Dark
was game
Elves.
three.
Game 3.
Um,
I've got it in the
Game
wrong
two was
order.
against Mark. I don't know if they've got the
Here it
sequence.
is.
Yeah, that one.
Sorry, I had it in
So,
the wrong
but he's
order.
been on the channel initially.
You're right. Yeah, I
Um,
interviewed him.
he did, and he's been very successful. I think he's, I don't know if he'll go to Masters, but he ended up coming second overall, I think. Pretty brutal game. Like I run that, I've lots of small units in Beastman, and Mark actually outdropped me, which is extraordinary when you think about it. But I sort of was able to get into a lot of combats at the start, but in the end, his Oaken Stave Wizard was just too powerful, and like he even was able to sort of wear me down enough that I had to abandon the Herdstone to try to make up points elsewhere. But I like an exhausting game in many ways, which we'll probably talk about more generally later on. Treekin, Paddy, you were early, so early.
They're
But
good.
they were maybe the story of the tournament for a
They
lot of
were.
people.
Yeah, everyone's figured out tree whack is absolutely bananas if you get the jump on people.
Yeah,
D3
and they were a
D3
big part
hits.
of his victory in this game. Maybe
Yeah.
the biggest part.
Mark's a great player, is successful Wood Elf player consistently. So that's saying something. It's very difficult to do what he does, I believe. So this, you went down to the wire in the end, but objectives swung it to him. Was it 15-5 though?
I think I was losing the whole game, but it was, yeah, like it was down to the wire. We didn't get through all the turns, but a lot, like we were in the thick of it from the get go, and there were lots of swings. That photo, I rolled 17 on the spawn going first, so I'm right in his face. I was able to get off some magic missiles like at a very high volume late in the game, which sort of turned the right flank, but on the left flank, I just couldn't bust through. War Dancers were good, Wild Riders were good. I might have overplayed it that way, but there'll be a battle report in a week or so. Yeah, next week, I'd say.
Probably a good time to shout out as well your battle reports that are coming. We are trialing a new thing on the 2 Plus podcast. Alex has already done one of these, and you've probably seen it, I think, in your recent tactics video. Maybe you did it. I can't remember. But
Yeah, Yeah, I
There's
included the stills.
Yeah, we're going down this nostalgic white dwarf path where there's an overhead 2D shot of the armies out where they go, arrows, skulls for dead stuff, and that to explain the strategy behind the stuff, and then close-up photos to explain the moments that are happening. So check them out, please, when they come out. And this is your game three. Sorry to jump the gun, but Alistair's Dark Elves.
Yeah, it was good. I hadn't played Alistair before, and he, after the first two games, because I hadn't played with this army before, I thought, oh, Herdstone, after losing it in the second game, I thought, I'm just going to castle it up in because I had the standard advantage. So for people not au fait with how the tournament worked, in this last scenario, if you finish with more standards, you got 3 battle points, which was the equivalent of 750 kill points, which was huge. And I thought, oh, I'll just make him come to me. So I did nothing on the first turn really, and then he just very well played, destroyed me with he moved he got the summoning off, which was a little bit lucky, but he got it off and destroyed my entire like shell of a unit protecting a shaman and killed the shaman, which had Ruby Ring, Viletide, and the summoning itself, sorry. But he also used Focus Familiar very smartly and threw Pillar, so it just like whipped through my line. So that sort of forced me to move forward the next turn. But once I got into combat, the like Spawn and the Shaggoth were hard for him to deal with. And I just sort of had enough play to his massive Witch Elf block that being frenzied, they had to charge things and they also had to overrun. So they sort of ended up like I won a big combat. They moved into the back, massacred the unit, had to shoot towards the sort of sideboard edge. And at that point, it was like turn four. And if he passes his restraint, he can probably pivot towards the Herdstone. But he failed it, and it was never going to make it through the forest that it was behind at that point. So, sort of like a comfortable victory where Alistair played well, but probably like a mismatch. I still ended up with the standards because I had 3 ambushing units I could just put to the corners, and yeah, like I think if when we go after we go through your stuff, Paddy, Alistair probably felt similarly like that. The scope of the event is so large that I think we were just both worn out by the end of
Yeah.
it, and we're running back and forth to the car. Like, as soon as like, all right, you do this, I'm gonna go sort this out. Like, I've got to call my wife. It turns 5 and 6 type thing. So yeah, pretty funny, but definitely it was a good way to sort of end, in my mind, this sort of first era or season of Oldhammer. Like, because Alistair's been there from the start, had been the initial interviewee, when we sort of talked about the lists and built the hype for that event. So yeah, it was good to get a game against him. It was good to see like probably the army he wanted to play on the table, rather than the one that he brought that is a blight on humanity to the second Oldhammer, stopping me from winning the event.
500 point dragon, 1500 point tournament. Anyway, moving on. Little wrap up quickly of the Beastmen. That was your second tournament with them.
Yeah,
Into
look,
two
I
plus.
guess like we've been through this in great detail, but the gigantic spawn, I'll do the highs, lows, and in the middle. Gigantic spawn of chaos redeemed itself completely, like to the point where now it's not just that it's the efficiency, but just that flexibility in that charge arc, which is misunderstood by a lot of players, but you need that sort of thing at the top of the meta, and the spawn can do it. Like I didn't face cannons and things like that. I didn't get a lot of spells off, but Viletide's still outrageous. Like, when I shake loose of the spell zone and get it off, it would just destroy a unit. So those were my like S tier contributors. The Shaggoth was really good, but it does have some weaknesses with the stomps and stuff. The Herdstone, I might do a video about it. It's harder to play than it seems. It's good, but you can't just do nothing, unfortunately. Like, even I like to play with a lot of magic missiles with Beastmen. So you do have to attack, which means that it's vulnerable, because you have to invest to sort of protect it a little bit. So I'm still like, I think you should play it absolutely, but it's not. I don't think it's broken. You have to actually play with it, and that can be hard, especially as people get used to it more often. And sadly, flying carpet is completely garbage. I thought I could sort of zip in and out of units as well, but I couldn't. So I'm running around with this three wounds general, trying to get within 15 inches of things. And it was, yeah, like it probably cost me that second game where I had to really like be very careful. I couldn't stay in dispel range, zip around. And even though like I kept it alive, I had to work really hard, and it cost me sort of my other shaman unit in the middle to sort of protect it. So I would love to play Beastmen again. I appreciate the Arcane Journal is really good. There's a lot of depth to the army now. You've got great core units. You've got interesting characters that are not broken, and you've got these heavy monsters that when you're just rolling attacks, it's just so good. The quality of the attacks are so high.
Well, congrats on another successful Oldhammer. I think, were you the winningest Oldhammer player in the end after 5
Yes,
tournaments?
Paddy, thank you. I
11 or
am. I thought
12?
I might have got an award, and I hung around, but no, they gave him to the first, second, and third players in the sportsmanship or some other garbage. But yeah, I have won 10 times and lost only 3 times. So I know Simon. I mean, technically Simon's only won 6 times, but I don't think he's breathing. It was breathing down my neck. But I've been in more old homers. So yeah, I don't know when the next
Congrats.
one's planned for, but I imagine it's a year. Happy, happy with how it's gone.
Well done.
Thanks, Paddy.
No worries.
The other half of the pod off.
Yeah, so this was me v Gomo, my game one. I had a good week to ruminate and stress about 40 poison archers, a casket, 2 necrosphinx, 5 who sharpties with great bows who can just turn around and laser stuff on 5s. And it was a really, really fun game. Gomo is a fantastic guy to play against. Really gets into the moments, doesn't get salty. His army looks great. The chat's good. He commiserates, and he gets pissed off when he rolls bad at the same time. There was high emotion and no salt, which was really fun. And there was a massive moment at the end of this game where it all just kind of turned on its head, because I had managed to, I believe, get on top by about turn 4. This was my first time running Orcs and Goblins at 2,000 points. There was a lot of stuff I hadn't played with, like the Arachnarok, Night Goblins, Fanatics, Black Orcs, Doom Divers, a unit of 12. I basically hadn't played with this entire army. So it was a big learning curve for me. I got a couple of lucky things early. I dispelled like a randomly high amount of his spells on turn 1, which he was playing Mort Cult plus bloody 25 to cast every time he casts the spell. And I managed to stop a couple of pivotal ones on his turn 1, because essentially I just marched this block up in the middle for a dispel range on his wizard there and just tried my luck at it. I managed to stop a few things. My Doom Diver also popped his casket on turn 2 with an indirect fire 2-inch. I spoke about, you'll attest surely that I spoke about this in the lead up. I was like, wait a minute, indirect fire and just chance my arm. It's so BS
Yeah,
if you hit it.
33%, I think we said.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? 33%?
So I've got to roll
With two of them. You had two of them.
yeah. One misfired, the other one scattered 2 inches, but still managed to hit the casket. I can't remember how. Direct hit, 4 wounds, no regen save. See you later, casket. That was one of the things I was really bloody stressing about, and is key to the Mort Cult setup. And also its magic missile is absolutely bananas, so I was glad not to have to play against that. But essentially the game comes down to necrosphinxes and 40 poison archers. It was really hard for me to stay on top of it. This one in the middle over here, I managed to keep in the middle for 3 turns with Miasmic Mirage. Unfortunately, I failed it on my turn 5 and it broke free. I had even put a crystal column in front of it, and Gomo managed to 12 fated dispel it to fully let it break free. And then he just this is right before it all turned to shit. At this stage, I believe I was winning. I probably couldn't capture these towers, and he had turn 2, so he probably would have won anyway. But this Necro here charges these guys fails its terror test, runs away, gets caught. This one fails the terror test, fails the terror test. And it's a good, like, I don't know, 400, 500 points. Yeah, leadership. Who needs it? Not Tomb Kings, that's for sure. Um,
Even
and
in
I,
Beastmen with Undivided, it's just like, I'll just re-roll it. And like,
yeah.
I failed heaps, but on the re-rolls, I'd like I don't know how many I failed completely, not many over the day.
Well, I failed heaps at leadership five,
Yeah,
six,
I
seven.
can imagine you did. And I've watched poor, like, human players that I've played against. Oh, that's going off the board. I'm like, I don't know, man. I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't flee. I don't know.
That's right. I don't know what happens. All my units are ITP.
Yeah. The Necro, you heard me in the lead up talking about how much I was dreading playing it. This one here kills 8 boars on the
Yeah.
charge. Anyway, I lost that game. I think it was 14-9, so it was an 11-9 on kill points, and he got 500 points on turn 5. So I was in pretty good shape, and it probably honestly could have ended up a draw, if not an 11-10 or something. He captured the tower. He had the level 4 on a magic carpet, so he would say the magic carpet was really good, I presume, because he just flew in there. But all in all, a very, very, very enjoyable game against Gobbo, and it was great to play against the Old World Fanatics guys. Game 1. This was game 2, which was another matchup I was kind of dreading. This photo is from turn 2 or 3 or so, which is after like the pivotal moment, essentially where I won the game. But this is against Akhtar, who is a renowned Warhammer player in Australia and has a long history of being successful at tournaments, highly ranked player, scraped into Masters
What are
here.
the, what's the unit?
This one?
Yeah. Are they
That's
standards that
no,
like that are high?
they are unit fillers. So these are
Okay.
zombies. These are Graveguard.
So what are the sort of like lifeguard boxes coming out of the units? Are they sort of like tombs?
Those, I suppose
Yeah, are
they're
they standards?
like graves. I don't know,
Okay.
like
Mausoleum
pillars.
type.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mausoleums.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of skeletons. He had 7 standards to my 5. This one was table quarters. So I had to go on the offensive. He had a mortis engine. He did have some blood knights here, which ended up being the moment of the game, which was huge for me.
It's a good shot.
And so went, I want to say I went first. No, he must have gone first. I can't remember. But my orc boys were kind of just waiting for them to move forward because they have countercharge. He moves into the forest. I miasmic mirage them once, so he moves them up. And then I miasmic mirage them again on my turn.
And you got that off a lot.
I
Were
did.
you rolling a 7?
Yeah, I don't think I
8?
failed. I
No,
think
level
I
4.
you're level
It's a
4, so
7.
it's a 7. 7 to cast. The best part about it, high cast spells, obviously, is if you get them, they're hard to dispel.
Yeah,
And
that's
that I
right.
felt that massively. Miasmic Mirage is was an S tier thing for me on the day. If I
Yeah,
got it off
love
on
it.
that Necro against Gomo, it was the one time I failed it, but I got it 4 out of 5 times, I reckon. And he broke free and then crushed me. But I managed to miasmic mirage he lost one to dangerous terrain for starters.
Fair
So I
go.
think he had 9 and then down to 8 I miasmic mirage them. Initially I failed my first charge on them. I needed to roll a 2. No, I needed a 3 total on the low dice and the Swiss straight. I rolled a 2 on the low dice. No, I needed a 4 total because then I failed with a 1. I needed a 2 on the Swift Stride to make the first charge, and I failed. But then I had Miasmic Miraged it, so he couldn't charge me next turn. And then I got Miasmic Mirage on it again, so he couldn't countercharge me. And then my Boars managed to get the charge off, pop the entire unit of Blood Knights, which anyone who's played against vampire counts with 32 Graveguard, 9 Blood Knights, and a Mortis Engine, once you get rid of one of those units, the Graveguard or the Blood Knights, they're severely weakened because the Graveguard just hold down an entire map, resurrecting them, while the Blood Knights just crush stuff while you resurrect them. So you have to pop them in one turn. I managed to do it, and that left him with not a lot to kill my stuff. And then his Mortis engine got tied up into my boars. If I go back over here. So that was after the combat. And he decided to charge in after his Blood Knights died. Didn't get impact hits. I only lost one guy to the Scream, and the rest of the stuff on that thing sucks. They're all strength 3, weapon skill 2 or 3, so hitting on 4s and 5s, wounding on 4s and 5s against my armor. And I kept rolling relatively low on the Screams, losing 1 and 2 a turn, and they managed to hold up the Mortis engine for like 3 full turns. So while he was doing that, I managed to destroy everything, essentially. The Wyvern is so good. Like, it's not a dragon, but the Black Orc guy on top, especially when you pop the Wa special ability, usually hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, usually you're wounding on 2s, re-rolling 1s. So it's 5, essentially 4 to 5 AP2 wounds against stuff. The Wyvern itself isn't great, but he was awesome the entire day. These two guys kill 30 zombies in one turn, 16, and then crumble 14. And it felt good.
You know, Oldhammer's no joke. I think Akhtar was looking to get to Masters, and maybe he got there, maybe he didn't. I don't really pay much
He
attention to
did, yeah.
Masters, sorry, Gomu. But I think, you're on the 0-1 table at this point, and, you're playing someone who's built himself a reputation. To get this sort of result is a big deal, and I've seen it happen similarly where people come down and like even in the warm-up events, I remember when I first ran that Beastmen, it was just like hard going. Like people know what they're doing. They're either now experienced with one list or they generally bring something that's like pretty playable in the field. So yeah, to push, to get the win down there and keep going is a great result.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. I'm not gonna lie, because to run into this in round 2 is
Yeah.
pretty frustrating. Not frustrating, but
Well,
it's
it's
like,
been
oh
at the
man,
top of the meta for a long time,
yeah,
6 months. Screams has been out there, James Ramsey making videos in the dawn of Oldhammer about this sort of thing. And yeah, there's big, as you say, Mortis Engine, Graveguard, Blood Knight combination has just been around. Very difficult to deal with, isn't it, if you don't have the tools? Lucky you
I
had the tools.
I will say 25% characters really hurts vampire counts, I believe, because you can't have the Mortis engine and the fighty guy, and you need the fighty guy for the extra offensive threat, like the Blood Knights. If you get a successful, like a good charge in your books off on them, then you can pop them on combat res and the like.
Yeah, I sort of feel like though this is an all your eggs in one basket play. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And if you're going to make it, it is why people don't like playing against Death Stars, as we've said a couple of times, is because you deal with it in one way, and when the unit dies, you're cooked. And that's the issue is, like the armies that I play, I always have something with first charge, but the strategy is to sort of line up and try to get that charge in one go, and it goes one way or the other. And I like, we've talked about this a bit in the meta, but it is a bit all or nothing, and that's what I don't like about Warhammer because of the length of time you're playing and those mini combats that you get. Like, you got 2 combats on the table, make it interesting because the rolls are going to go not your way sometimes and sometimes the other way, and then you just do the best with what you get on the dice. But when it's like one big unit like this is the only way you can sort of get there, then well, that's the list. Play
Mm.
something with a bit more variety, and it's an absolute mind meld, but at least you're getting those moments instead of the all or nothing play so much.
Yeah, we'll speak a little bit more on kind of that top end in the wash up because I got some takeaways from this game that definitely kind of impacted how I see tournament play. The next one, I took no photos. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm not going to say anything. Yeah, let you sort of
Paddy,
work
I think your
through
slide's
this.
broken. No, this is a testament to being, as you said, wired at the end of 2 games. My third game was against Adam, who I lost to on what would probably be the final table in that tournament against Bretonia. So I wanted to avenge my failing then. and I did. I beat Adam, thankfully, but it ended up being tight again. I ran away with it at the start, and he came back with the Duke and four pegs just going nuts around the board. Some crazy flea interactions on both sides that just spread the board out, and the pegs just went boom, dead, boom, dead, boom, dead. But thankfully, my Ragnarok Spider saved the day and stomped the Duke to death with his last two stomps. But that meant I went 2-1. I think I came 15th. You came 8th, I think, which I'm always happy finishing in the top half. 2-1 is always my goal. I don't want to go, definitely don't want to go 0-3, and 1-2. I'd feel like I'd leave disappointed, I think. But I had three difficult games. There wasn't like Tomb King, Poison Block with Necros, Vampire Count, Blood Knights, and then 7 pegs with a Duke, albeit no magic and no Monster Slaying Killing Blow. Like, it wasn't maxed out Brett's, but 8 pegs on a table is enough for 1,200 kill points, in my experience playing against them. So, as you said, at the end of it, I was like, whoa, like that was draining.
Yeah, I was completely cooked. And I have been at the last couple, to tell you the truth. It's just like I find I'm good for about 2 games. I don't know whether I'm just getting older or it's just intense trying to play well all the time. So it does still matter to me to play really well. But I sort of feel like after 5 of these tournaments, like if you haven't, you're not someone who goes to a lot of events, you go to events to meet like-minded people. And I feel like I've met a lot of people like that, which is great. And when you're meeting new people all the time, it's exhausting. You do have to manage the social side of the game. And the bigger it gets, the more it's a broad church. And you just have to, like, for the good of the event, you've just got to get along. And I find that if you're playing super competitively, it's impossible to know all these rules interactions. Impossible. Like I am as tuned in as some people, and while I played a new list, like I didn't know that a flying unit of the same subtype, sorry, model of the same subtype couldn't join the unit, and that sort of was my a big part of my army. So when you're at the top, often it's just the player that wants it more who's going to get their way and is willing to push it. That I suppose like to really like play well is a marathon or an endurance event for 9 hours, and I can't imagine how anyone goes back for a 5 round tournament anymore. To tell you the truth.
I still think I could play 5 games of Warhammer in 2 days. I'm pretty hooked on it at the moment, but what I learnt from this Oldhammer, particularly in the Akhtar game against someone like that who is that like hard bleeding edge competitive player that plays, you know, the strongest lists in the toughest formats where like you're out for blood essentially. You're there for 10 10s or 20 O's. That's how I feel those
Yeah,
people
it's a good
play.
way of putting it.
And it kind of sucked a little bit away from what I like to play Warhammer for, which is the moments. We've spoken about the moments, the joy in the unfolding, a long time ago, and it became about no, your guy can't do that, and contesting it. I'm like, I'm telling you, they can't. You can trust me, or I can get the TO. And there was a lot of TOing. I think I called apologies, Michael. I think I got him about
Well,
9 times.
me too. Like I have to call him a lot, and I get in my head, and I don't want to do it as well. But I feel like, well, it's the type of game. I think there's got to be a bit more leeway. Like I just think it's just a willingness to give on both sides. It's not. It's just necessary. Like because you can't know all the rules, and if you think you do, you're absolutely clowning me. Like you don't. I don't, and we're absorbing a lot of this information all day, every day. I have reflected on all of the most serious games I've played over the last year, and I think in the games that were at the highest tables, I think some of the worst rules mistakes were made. They're presented with such confidence, and I've been guilty of this as well. And sometimes with that expedient, because you feel like you're at the end of the turn 2 and you've got half an hour to go, and you think, okay, we've just got to go with it. But as you were saying, Paddy, that's not what I'm in Warhammer for. And I found myself, like, as the day wears on, not able to stop and say, wow, I just rolled literally 11 for that fireball, and then I rolled 10 wounds. And I just want to like go, wow, like for a moment. Or I just rolled 2 6-ups. I think against Andrew Stones, I rolled 2 6-ups on a 5-up ward. And I could stop because it was the first game. But then the second game was so intense and we were up against it on time. And there was so much micromanaging that we had to move on. And then in against Alistair, both of us are like, well, we told our wives we'd be maybe leaving at 5. And here we are at 7, reading into every text message. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not anything about the play. You've got to want it to win. It's just that, yeah, you go to find the people that you have the same bandwidth for. And I think I've been really lucky to meet a lot of people like that. And I'm very lucky that I can get games more regularly than a lot of people. And yeah, I did find, geez, this is like very tough going at the end. And yeah, I'd like to savor the moments a little bit more. But I think it's me. I think I'm a common denominator in like some of these games going to time. I think maybe I'm more deliberate than I think in my own head.
With that moment I was explaining about the ball boys, I feel was kind of taken away from me at the time of it unfolding because as I was going to do it, Actor was saying, I've done the maths, do it. I'm happy for you to do it. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll make the
Okay,
decision.
thanks.
That's fine. Yeah, thank you. Like, I'm going to if I want to or not. And then he contested that Miasmic Mirage didn't stop countercharging. And I was like, it does. A countercharge is a charge move. I had to get Michael for that. And then when he didn't have his lances, he said the accursed weapons gave him +1 strength. And I was like, oh, that feels weird. Nothing in the game gives anything +1 strength ever.
No, nothing.
Nothing.
Not well, Cathay does, but we've been through that.
And I said, are you sure? That sounds wrong.
Oh,
Can you look
actually,
it up?
there's a few things, but anyway,
Yeah,
nothing generic. Impetuous
yes,
Manner, I think does.
but
Sorry.
I was trying to say though, it was like, I contested it pretty strongly and I was pretty confident. I ended up, like I asked him to check, he couldn't find it. I looked it up. I was right. It was not. It was -1 AP, which is still good, but he was not strength 5. So after the guy had done the maths, it was based on a rule that he had wrong, yet he was communicating to me like I had no chance. It really took the moment out of it for me. And I rolled really well on my hits. I think it was 9 out of 10 4-ups. And like, and I wasn't able to enjoy it. And sure, I wasn't trying to rub it in his face. But like, this was the entire moment the game was going to revolve around. And instead of being like, holy shit, the Boar Boys just beat the Blood Knights, it was, God, that took 25 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels very procedural, and it doesn't feel like when you're playing to win at the top, it doesn't feel like you can negotiate all that away. It becomes a game of rules knowledge at that point and who's willing to push it. And as I was saying, I don't think I've played someone who's had perfect rules knowledge. I've gone back to games because of recording them. That's the benefit of the channel. And gone, well, yeah, that person was 100% confident and I let them have it, or maybe I've done it for them. And yeah, I just don't like it. It does leave a bad taste in your mouth that like you've played this great game, but it came down to like technicalities rather than the drama. You've got to embrace the dice in the game. I think I was saying in the aftermath of mine that I think as Beastman, I'm just rolling so many dice that the spikes are there, and it's not just the vile tides, but I'm just constantly rolling leadership tests and rerolls. I'm constantly rolling 2d6 for different things that I reckon I might be doing 100 of them in a game. And so aren't my odds of getting a 6 or a 1 then likely? And so I think that, yeah, we've brought it up a lot about 1 player, 2 player. And that's what I think it is. I think there are so many better ways to express that sort of mentality. Become a lawyer, get involved in like stock market derivatives where that's the outcome. But for Warhammer, where you can push a model can fall off the board, or a dice cocked, is it cocked or not? Like, there are so many moments like that too, that to then come put the clamps down and not notice that the other person just might have got the better luck or outplayed you. For the love of God, I wish someone would just say they got outplayed for a change as well. So,
to Actar's credit, at the end, as you do at the end of every Warhammer game, you do the debrief and the like the download of everything that happened and what went wrong and what did not. And he said at the end, "But you played well," which is very rare to come across as well. And I wouldn't say it every time for sure because you get caught up in the moment. But that's something we want to hear more of. Essentially, we want to have fun games that are competitive, but in the spirit of playing well, not chasing a 20-0 and getting the 20-0.
Or just having the humility that maybe you played the guy who turned up with the double razor gauze. Maybe you turned up with the guy, like where had no outs for your dragon and you decided to bring a dragon to the event. We've been there. And just saying, yep, like a bit, as Alistair said a long time ago, of grace about it. I think that's the trick is that like you got to keep it moving for everybody. It's an incredible event, like what's running, and I think when you get there, that just by picking up dice, you've got to accept the result. And if you can do that with good humor, then you're winning at life, like really, because you've come and someone else is getting joy for a change. But I feel like the odds even out enough that the other person will always have moments of like winning in the game, and you just got to make sure they enjoy it.
Yeah, and I definitely enjoyed my day on Saturday, as I have the previous 4 Oldhammers, forget how many I've been to. I think the next one's likely not next month, the next couple months away. I don't know what
Yeah, I would imagine so. Bring it up
it'll.
after a year. Like there are other tournaments in the space coming up that I think people from Sydney might travel to, like the Newcastle ones, Castle of Sol. Moab is still a big draw for a lot of people. I think they're still looking for a TO if anyone is interested. I probably should say Paddy G might actually have won more games than me at Oldhammer. Maybe. Uh,
We'll get the
so
recount
it,
count back.
yeah, definitely play like has been one of the most successful players there. But yeah, I think if going back through it, they might work around that. But with the new match play stuff, God, who knows what that'll do? Because everyone's going to be trying to put together baggage cuts and things like that soon. So I think it'd be good. Like I certainly want to be more spontaneous with Warhammer. Like I feel like I enjoyed playing a list. I like playing a list that's different. I like the diversity in the game, and it's hard to give up the competitive side of it. But I'm extremely lucky to be able to play a lot of different people all the time, and yeah, turning up and trying to win might not be my main focus in the future.
Yeah, we'll see what the future holds in the next couple of episodes of the 2 Plus podcast. We've got some exciting stuff coming. We're probably going to be leaning into this Beastmen Wood Elves lore focused arcane journals that have come out. I've just been reading mine actually, right here. Which is the only GW purchase I made this whole endeavor.
How long did it take you to read the fluff? Isn't it like 3 paragraphs in the
Yeah, it's
book?
about
Maybe
there's like
4 pages.
there's about 10 pages, I reckon, and a lot of it is actually not old world. It's like the lead up to, like, it's got the War of the Beards in there, not in detail, but like just like this happened, this happened, this happened. This is where the Wood Elves were. It's helped a lot though, to be honest, get like more of a vibe of what the old world is, and I think it's where there's going to be a lot of value in it moving forward with leaning into that lore focused stuff and trying to build some meaning behind the armies, because as we have done for the last 12 months 18 months, we've gone so heavy on the competitive scene and competitive play and playing well that for me I kind of want to move into a little bit of a softer approach, not full narrative campaign stuff, but just kind of lean into Orion, Talson, the Beastmen feud, all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to see what happens there.
Yeah. So if people know anything about that, we're interested. Scenario design again, Discord, but we're looking maybe at the scenario in the book that's sort of an Orion versus Crownmore build up. Though I really do want to try to play Primal Herd for parts of that, so that might take me a bit longer. But if you Battle of Arden Forest, anything else that you have ideas around how we would take some of the lore and turn it into a scenario on the back of the match play improvements And just, I guess, if you've played in Sydney too, or the scenarios, whatever you can advise, we've sort of got the software to sort of put it together and the large enough armies to really do different types of things.
Excited for it. Alex, thank you. Everyone who's watching, thank you. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, consider joining the Patreon, and we will see you for the next 2+ podcast episode. See you later.
All right.